Ford's Fiesta van is not only the industry's smallest LCV, but also remains the most enjoyable one to drive in this 7th generation form. If you've an urban-based business prioritising efficiency and manoeuvrability over low capacity, it might be just up your street.
There used to be plenty of options if you wanted a really small city-sized van. Today though, if that's what you need, a Ford is almost certainly what you want. Maybe this one, the Fiesta van. The Blue Oval brand still thinks there's a customer need for tiny LCVs like this. Are they right? Perhaps. Size, after all, isn't everything when it comes to vans. In fact, for a certain kind of customer, small is beautiful, as will be the case when it comes to an LCV if, for instance, your business only delivers very small items in congested urban areas. Ford has been producing its Fiesta van to cater for this need ever since 1976, and in 2014 widened its offering in the city van sector to also include the Fiesta-based transit courier van for those wanting the same small roadway footprint but a slightly larger high-cube style load capacity. But small businesses like florists and couriers often don't need much space in the back, and for them, the older approach to small van design, that of simply taking a supermini and doing little more than removing the rear seats and blanking out the rear windows, works just fine. All the main LCV brands used to populate this part of the van market, either with supermini-derived vans or high-cube style ones. Now, though, things are very different. In fact, by the time of the launch of this 7th generation Fiesta van in mid-2018, the only brand still competing with Ford in the city van segment was Fiat, and their Fiorino high-cube van was in its last run-out phase. Every other LCV manufacturer will try and sell you an entry-level version of a family hatch-based model from the next class up, something like Ford's own Transit Connect model. And that might not really be what you actually need. Which is why we still think that there might be a place in commercial hearts for this Fiesta van, the only straightforward supermini-derived LCV left on the market, especially in this much improved 7th generation form. Believe it or not, the bodywork's completely new, so is the suspension, and as a result, the driving dynamics are promised to be even better than ever. There's a brand new interior, fashioned with much higher quality, and buyers will benefit from a fresh era of media connectivity and camera-driven safety technology. As before, there's a choice of either a standard model or this more dynamic-looking sport van version. And inside the 3-door body, there's a load compartment capable of carrying approximately 1 cubic metre of cargo with a load length of almost 1.3 metres and a gross payload of around 500 kilograms, which might be all your business really requires. If so, stay with us as we put this Fiesta van to the test. What might the best handling van you can buy be like? Well, let's see. The redesigned body of this 7th generation Fiesta van model is 15% stiffer than that of its predecessor, yet it remains pretty light, tipping the scales at only a fraction over a tonne, which always helps. Stability has been aided by a widening of the front and rear tracks. The low-set driving position gives a feeling of sportiness, and when you push on a bit through the turns, there's plenty of feedback through the wheel thanks to an upgraded electric steering rack. It's weighty and feelsome when you're pushing on, which gives you real confidence in wet or slippery conditions, but it's also light when you need it to be, nipping around town or when manoeuvring, which isn't as easy as it ought to be in a small van because the door mirrors are rather small and the view out of the rear window is somewhat restricted. As with an ordinary Fiesta Supermini, the feel you'll get when pushing on at speed depends quite a lot on the variant you decide upon. Opt to upgrade yourself from a standard Fiesta van model to the sport van variant we have here, and you get lowered sport suspension and larger wheels, so it can be anything between 16 to 18 inches in size, depending on the final spec you choose. That makes quite a difference, not only to the on-the-limit handling, In a version of this model like this one, specced out with the largest 18-inch alloy rims, you won't really appreciate just how much the ride quality has been improved this time round. On a lesser Fiesta van, that's much more obvious, courtesy of the way that the whole suspension setup has been completely re-engineered for this 7th generation design, with bigger axle mounts that iron out road imperfections and better handle broken urban tarmac surfaces. Another thing that differentiates the standard Fiesta van from this sport van variant is engine choice. In an ordinary Fiesta van, you're limited to a couple of Ford's lesser powered units, a petrol and a diesel, both developing 85 PS. The green pump engine is a 1.1 litre TI VCT 3-cylinder normally aspirated petrol unit that borrows much from the brand's EcoBoost technology and has been mated to a manual gearbox that we're told has been freshly developed for it, despite the fact that it soldiers on with only 5 speeds. That variant manages 62 miles an hour from rest in 14 seconds en route to 105 miles an hour. The alternative 1.5 litre TDCi 4-cylinder diesel unit compensates for its effect on the polar ice cap by offering nearly twice as much pulling power as the lesser powered derivative, 215 newton meters as opposed to 110 newton meters, and makes 62 miles an hour from rest in 12.5 seconds on the way to 108 miles an hour. Both variants, though, do without rear disc brakes, which is disappointing in a modern van. At least Ford fits rear disc brakes to both versions of this sport van, though, reasoning this more dynamic variant's much higher power outputs make them necessary. For petrol people, there's the brand's familiar little 1 litre T EcoBoost 3-cylinder turbo unit, offered here in a 125 PS state of tune. If you're quick with the slick 6-speed stick shift, it'll get you to 62 miles an hour from rest in 9.9 seconds en route to 121 miles an hour. The alternative is the engine that we're trying here, a high-output 120 PS version of the 1.5 litre TDCi diesel, which we found to be one of the more refined units of its kind. Again, the black pump-fueled option has vastly more torque than the petrol version, 270 newton meters as opposed to 170 newton meters. And its standard performance stats are very competitive too, 62 miles an hour from rest occupying 9 seconds on the way to 121 miles an hour. Curiously, for a van that'll spend most of its life in the city, there's no auto gearbox option anywhere in the range. What else might you need to know? Well, the bulkhead behind the seats has a mesh upper section, which is good because it enables you to get some use out of the rearview mirror, but bad because it allows sound from the low bay to reverberate around the front of the cabin. It's unlikely that you'll be towing with this little van, but those that will might want to know that this sport van variant's gutsier engines offer a maximum braked towing weight of 1,100 kilograms. That's up from 900 kilograms in a standard Fiesta van. If you'll be jinking through the city streets, you'll want to know about the tight turning circle at 10 meters curb to curb and 10.4 meters wall to wall. On that subject, adding the optional 18-inch wheels also adds in a steering limiter to stop the larger tyres rubbing on the inside of the wheel arches when the steering is on full lock. We'd also recommend that you consider some of the camera-driven safety kit that's been added this time round. Features like blind spot detection, adaptive cruise control and lane assist are all now available. It seems all very sophisticated on what used to be such a simple little product. In some ways, though, simple virtues will still sell you this van. It just feels right from the moment that you get behind the wheel. Clever, thoughtful design usually manifests itself like that. At first glance, you might think the design of this 7th generation Fiesta van to represent a pretty modest evolution over its predecessor. Get out the tape measure though, and it's a different story. This little LCV being 70mm longer, 13mm wider and 20mm lower than before. Plus, virtually every constituent part of this model is different. You can see though why the brand wanted the look and feel of this small van to stay much the same. The company's European design director, Joel Piaskowski, says that he wanted to evolve the styling in a way that would make it more contemporary, without losing the essential Fiesta-ness that customers love. That's what's been delivered. As before, there are two quite distinct variants from which to choose. The smaller engines are reserved for the standard Fiesta van, while the larger ones come fitted to this smart sport van version, which, as you can see, is what we've got here. Choose this more dynamic derivative and you get a special body kit that includes these lower side skirts, plus there are larger wheels too. As standard, the ordinary Fiesta van's 15-inch rims are replaced by 16 inches, but on request, Fiesta Sport van buyers can upgrade to 17 inches or even the big 18-inch 5x2 spoke rock metallic rims that we've got here. From a profile perspective, you get a better feel for the slightly bigger size of this little van this time round, and for the way that Ford has tried to make the profile more settled and less aggressively wedge-shaped. The central belt line that runs along the bottom of the front window into the headlamp is now better defined, as is this additional crease that flows through the door handles. Get up close and personal here at the front and you begin to appreciate the thought that's gone into this 7th generation design. Smoothing out the previous model's central bonnet bulge gives this little van a cleaner, smoother, more sculpted look and better emphasises this smarter, wider grille, which gets a black honeycomb finish on this sport van variant. The headlamps are sleeker too, and on this top model come fitted with integrated LED daytime running lights. The sport van also gets its own unique sport-style lower fog lamps too, which sit in corner outlets fashioned like this central lower air intake for better aerodynamics. Now, it's at the rear that the styling differences of this LCV in comparison to its predecessor are most pronounced, with the most obvious change being the switch from the previous model's vertical tail lamps to these horizontally shaped clusters that feature a more distinctive C-shaped signature light pattern. The idea is to emphasise this Mark 7 model's wider stance and broader shoulders, hence also the way that this restyled bumper has been scalloped to include these reflective lenses in its far corners. On this sport van variant, you get this chrome exhaust extension, plus you can specify this optional integrated roof-mounted tailgate spoiler to complete the effect. If you're a real stickler for detail, up here you might notice that the shut line between the roof and the tailgate is now much narrower, reduced by 30%. It's an example of what Ford says is an obsession with quality this time round. What's more important is the stuff you can't see. Under the skin of this Mark 7 model lies a thoroughly reworked version of the Global B platform used in the previous model, upgraded with more laser welding, stiffer attachment points, and underpinning a body structure featuring 35% more ultra-high strength boron steel. As a result of all this, there's a 15% improvement in torsional stiffness. All this is welcome, but as we've been saying, much of the improvement is invisible. Time to take you to a part of this little LCV where the changes really are very evident. Here at the wheel, it's quite different, isn't it? And it needed to be. Cabin quality was what let down the previous model with its cheap finishes and confusing button clutter. Now, forget all that now. There are flush, seamless surfaces, soft-touch plastic coatings and neat splashes of chrome. Plus, it all seems to have been very well screwed together by the factory in Cologne. On this sport van variant, it's particularly nice. Can this really be a van, is your first thought when getting behind the thick, leather-stitched, flat-bottom steering wheel that feels like the tiller that you get on an M Sport-trimmed BMW. It's complemented by low-set sports seats, an aluminium gearshift knob, a dark woven headliner and stainless steel pedals. Owner drivers will love it. Other than all this tinsel, the first thing you'll probably notice in this Mark 7 model Fiesta LCV is the infotainment system that now sprouts in freestanding form from the top of the centre console. As standard, sport van variant buyers get the largest available screen size, 8 inches, and customers for the base Fiesta van model can upgrade to this too from that version's rather limited 4.2-inch monitor. Pin-sharp graphics, logical menus and pretty fast processing speeds come included. And in all cases, thank goodness, you get the proper rotary volume and zoom controls that some rival systems have unwisely dispensed with. This bigger monitor showcases Ford's latest Sync 3 infotainment setup, which allows for easy app integration and functionality that enables you to duplicate the operation of your smartphone onto the central fascia screen via either Apple CarPlay or the MirrorLink Android Auto system. Now, if you're not familiar with the Sync package, it doesn't take long to adjust to it, with the central dash monitor divided into sectors that allow you to activate audio, phone and, where fitted, sat-nav functions via touchscreen icons. Heating and ventilation is covered off by separate switchgear further down the centre stack, which is just as well since the display icons on the monitor can be a little fiddly to use, despite the inclusion of smartphone-style pinch and swipe functionality. Instead of stabbing away at the screen graphics, it's better to try and master the system's impressive voice-activated functionality that allows you to issue simple one-shot commands, simply by saying phrases like, "I need a coffee," "I need petrol," or "I need to park." You can easily locate nearby cafes, petrol stations or car parks and find destinations like train stations, airports and hotels. Anything this display can't tell you will be covered off by the further 4.2-inch monitor that you'll find in the instrument binnacle, dealing with the usual trip computer functions. You view that through this smarter, higher quality 3-spoke steering wheel, the TFT screen sitting above small fuel and temperature gauges and flanked by big, clear speed and rev counter dials. It's all very user-friendly and ergonomically spot on, which is one reason why it's easy to feel so comfortable in this van. There's a usefully wide range of seat and wheel adjustment, and the driver's chair itself is supportive, though its relatively low positioning isn't ideal when you're trying to negotiate tight city streets. There's a slight problem with rear vision too, not only due to the obvious lack of the ordinary Fiesta's rear side windows, but also because the door mirrors are small, as is the rear window. As a result, we'd suggest that paying extra for the optional rear parking sensors would be money well spent. The more we've lived with this van, the more we've appreciated the little touches that Ford has thought so much about this time round. The way the doors now require 20% less effort to close. The way the wipers now clear 13% more of a windscreen that on this sport van model features an integrated quick clear heating element that'll de-ice it on frosty mornings. And the fact that you get much more interior storage than was on offer in the previous model. There's a big 1-litre area at the bottom of the centre stack with USB and 12-volt ports nearby. Plus you get an integrated pair of cup holders near the gear lever and another one further back, along with a USB port in this open bin. The door pockets are rather small, but do include bottle holders, and you get an overhead compartment for your sunglasses, a coin tray, and a credit card slot near the handbrake lever, and a further cubby by the driver's right knee. Illuminated vanity mirrors are built into both sun visors, as are ticket clips, and you get a reasonably sized glove box too. 20% larger than before and big enough to incorporate an optional CD player if you still want to play some of your old plastic discs. Inevitably, there are a few issues, things we'd want Ford to look at for the facelift. There are no roofline grab handles of the type that help older folk to get in. Some of the little buttons on the steering wheel are a bit fiddly. Plus, the centre dash touchscreen attracts reflections, and the ventilation vents beneath it freeze your fingers if you linger too long on the controls. We mentioned build quality earlier on. Well, the glove box lid and the door handles let the side down a little here, but what's important is that the bits that you regularly interact with, the wheel, the gear knob and the indicator stalks, for example, all feel significantly more upmarket than you might expect at this price point. So let's brief you on pricing for the two levels of ownership for this LCV market Fiesta. If all you need is the straightforward Fiesta van, then from the launch of this model, Ford was talking of an on-the-road price excluding VAT of around £14,000 for the 1.1 litre TI VCT petrol version, or around £15,000 for the 85 PS 1.5 TDCi diesel version. If, though, your attention's been captured by this more dynamic Fiesta sport van, you'll need to allow a budget of around £16,500 for the EcoBoost petrol variant and around £17,500 for this 120 PS 1.5 TDCi diesel derivative. For reference, a base diesel version of Ford's similarly sized Transit Courier High Cube style van costs around £800 less than a base diesel Fiesta van. The base diesel version of the next model up in the Ford LCV lineup, the larger family hatchback-based Transit Connect, would cost you around £2,000 more than a base diesel Fiesta van. As for other manufacturers, well, at the time of this LCV Fiesta model's launch, the only other brand still offering a supermini engineered city van style contender was Fiat, whose Fiorino, another high cube style model, was priced at around £800 above base petrol and diesel versions of a Fiesta van. We have to give you all of that competitor and brand positioning perspective as part of what we do in these films, but in truth it's pretty irrelevant here. There's nothing else on the market like a Fiesta van or a Fiesta sport van. So if you want this product, then it's likely that nothing else will do. If so, then you're going to want to know just how generous Ford has been with the standard spec. Well, let's see. If the ordinary Fiesta van is the model on your buying radar, then the Blue Oval brand thinks that you'll be satisfied with a fairly basic level of equipment. Mind you, even that includes quite a lot on a small van these days. At this entry point to the range, you get auto headlamps, front fog lights that turn with the bends, powered heated mirrors, remote central locking, a four-way adjustable driver's seat, front floor mats and a steel half-mesh bulkhead. As for infotainment and connectivity, well, there's Bluetooth with the My Ford device dock for your smartphone handset, plus a USB port and a 4.2-inch centre dash screen, via which you access a 4-speaker MP3 compatible DAB audio system. It's a pity that you have to do without a standard alarm and a spare wheel at this level, but you do get the Ford My Key setup that lets you set certain functions that can be restricted with the spare individual key fob provided. So, for instance, the volume of the stereo or the maximum speed can be limited for other drivers that you might occasionally be lending your Fiesta van to. It's a very useful selling point. Ford, though, thinks the majority of customers looking at this LCV-derived Fiesta are going to want this sport van variant. For sure, the extra £2,500 does buy you a considerable step up in style as well as in power. Your customers will immediately notice this version's sport-style body kit, the smarter front and rear bumpers and side skirts, plus the unique sport-style fog lamps and the chromed exhaust extension. You get 16-inch alloy wheels too, and a steel spare wheel as well, though that's only 14 inches in size. Sport suspension makes the team sheet, as do brighter halogen projector headlamps with integrated LED daytime running lights. There's also a Thatcham Category 1 alarm with power door deadlocks, along with rear disc brakes and a quick clear heated windscreen. Inside, there's sports seats, a leather-stitched flat-bottom sports steering wheel, an aluminium gear shift knob with a leather gaiter, a dark woven headliner and stainless steel sports foot pedals. And you get premium floor mats, an adjustable speed limiter, a Ford power start button and manual air conditioning. There's a different level of infotainment too, courtesy of an 8-inch Ford Sync centre dash screen. This includes Bluetooth and a 4-speaker DAB audio system that can be accessed via remote audio controls from the steering wheel. It's annoying, though, that you have to pay extra to add in smartphone mirroring and voice control. Enough on standard kit. Let's assume that you've chosen the Fiesta LCV variant you want and you're ready to start considering the possibility of adding on a few options. The box we really think you have to tick is that for rear parking sensors, given the slightly restricted rear visibility. These cost £150 and ought to be standard at sport van level. You can also get them packaged up with either a rear view camera, power folding mirrors, or a park assist system that will automatically steer you into spaces. Otherwise, options are really down to personal preference and budget. A lot of sport van customers are going to want to upgrade to larger wheels, maybe 17 inches, or possibly the 18-inch 5x2 rock metallic rims that we've got here. Ford also offers a larger rear spoiler for this design, we've got that too, along with the optional full LED headlights available as part of a package that also includes full LED illumination for the rear lamps. You're also probably going to want to look at upgrading the infotainment system. On both LCV Fiesta variants, you can add in a Sync 3 package based around the largest 8-inch Sync screen that includes satellite navigation, voice control, emergency assistance and Apple CarPlay, Android Auto smartphone mirroring. If you're likely to be using your Fiesta van for mobile office work on the move, then we suggest that you additionally invest in the clever Ford Pass Connect modem, which gives you onboard Wi-Fi, allows you to connect to the internet with up to 10 devices, and includes live traffic information too. What else? Well, on a base Fiesta van, you might well want to add in air conditioning and mud flaps. Other common options that buyers of both versions of this model tend to like include things like door edge protectors, a CD player that's mounted in the glove box, electronic automatic temperature control and keyless entry. We'd also want the seat pack, which includes lumbar support for both front seats, plus a centre console with an armrest. Talking of seats, both front seats can be heated as part of a package that'll also give you either the quick clear heated windscreen in the Fiesta van or a heated steering wheel in the sport van. Now, bear in mind that unless you want this model painted in solid frozen white, you'll need to be paying your Ford dealer more for the paintwork. We've got solid race red here, but there's also a range of extra cost metallic shades. As for practical stuff, well, you can of course add a detachable tow bar, or where the tyres are available, there's an optional smokers pack if you haven't kicked the habit, and there are speed limiters available that limit this model to either 56, 62 or 70 miles an hour. Wind deflectors for the windows and bumper protectors are also available, and you can add in rubber floor mats, a height adjustable Rati armrest, locking wheel nuts and an ACV wireless charging kit for QI compatible devices. Now, enough with general options. Let's consider this Fiesta's safety credentials. Ford says that the B-pillar and the doors of this 7th generation model have been redesigned to provide better side impact protection this time round. Plus, this is one of the few LCVs on the market to offer a passenger side airbag as standard, in addition to the driver's one. Extra seat airbags are optional. There's also a clever locking seatbelt tongue attachment on the driver's belt that prevents slippage of that belt during an accident. And another safety improvement this time round lies in the fact that inside the doors are pressure sensors that enable restraint systems to be activated several milliseconds earlier in the event of a side impact. Pedestrian protection is enhanced with headlamps designed to travel rearwards on impact, plus there's a collapsible cowl and wiper spindle assembly designed to give way in the event of head impacts. This was the first small van to be fitted with ABS braking back in 1989. And today you also get ESP stability control, tyre pressure monitoring and hill start assist to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. In addition, this sport van variant also gets a lane keeping system that warns you if you veer out of lane, including a lane keeping aid that will automatically steer you gently back to where you should be. As you'd expect in this day and age, there's plenty of extra cost safety stuff with features that draw on a technology package including 2 cameras, 3 radars and 12 ultrasonic sensors. Together, this setup is able to monitor 360 degrees around the vehicle and scan the road ahead up to a distance of 130 metres, more than the length of a football pitch. So what can all this give you? Well, probably the headline news is that autonomous braking has now made it to this Fiesta LCV model, though only at extra cost. Ford calls its system pre-collision assistance, and it works in the way that most of these systems tend to do, as you drive, scanning the road for potential collision hazards. If something you might be about to hit is detected, you'll be warned. If you don't respond or aren't able to, then the brakes will automatically be applied to decrease the severity of any resulting accident. Want to go further? Well, there's an optional cruise control pack which gives you speed sign recognition, that pictures speed signs you pass, displaying them on the dash, auto high beam, that automatically dips your headlights for you at night, and a driver impairment monitor, which constantly monitors your driving reactions for signs of drowsiness. On a basic Fiesta van, the cruise control pack also adds in that lane keeping system that I just mentioned. The safety option alternative to that cruise control pack is the slightly more sophisticated driver assistance pack. This package also includes speed sign recognition, auto high beam and the driver impairment monitor, but additionally includes power folding mirrors and a blind spot information system, which stops you from pulling out dangerously when there's another vehicle in your blind spot. On a basic Fiesta van, the driver assistance pack also adds in a couple of sport van features, an adjustable speed limiter and that lane keeping system. Okay, let's get practical. Exactly how much can this Fiesta LCV carry? Let's see. Owners of the previous generation model might possibly grouse about the fact that there's quite a high sill to heave bigger bags over, but compensation comes in the fact that the tailgate is now wider to give easier cargo area access. The hatch opens to create an aperture 948mm wide and 613mm high. Ultimately, of course, what you can get on board will be limited by what it's possible to fit through this tailgate. If that's an issue, you'd be better off considering Ford's Fiesta-based Transit Courier, which also has a sliding side door and is much more versatile. This Fiesta van model offers 0.96 cubic metres of load volume, which, somewhat counterintuitively, is actually slightly less than you get in an ordinary 3-door Fiesta Supermini with the rear seats folded. That car derivative doesn't have to make room for the steel bulkhead you get on this LCV, plus it gets extra underfloor storage that you can't have here. While we're referencing Ford model comparisons, it's probably more pertinent to mention that the high cube style load bay you'd get in that Ford Transit Courier van offers 2.3 cubic metres of load volume across a similar roadway footprint. So if you were to prioritise carriage capacity in a city style LCV, you'd obviously choose that model. But let's say this Fiesta van is sufficient for your needs. If so, you're going to want some practicality figures. The maximum usable load length of 1,283mm is slightly less than the previous model offered, but the load box height, 923mm, is significantly better this time round. The load box width dimension, that's 1,281mm, is pretty much the same as before. There's 984mm between the wheel arches. What else? Gross vehicle weight, you're looking at 1,635 kilograms for a diesel model like this one. Payloads, these are highest in the standard lower powered Fiesta van models. The 1.1 Ti VCT petrol version can take up to 528 kilograms, while the TDCi 85 PS diesel derivative can take up to 530 kilograms. With this sport van, you're looking at up to 508 kilograms for the EcoBoost petrol model, or up to 511 kilograms for the TDCi 120 PS variant. There are 4 lashing eyes in the load area, 2 at the back next to the tailgate, and 2 set into the corners of the load floor. That bulkhead I mentioned earlier is made from steel and features mesh above the window line, allowing you to use the rearview mirror for rearward vision. Unfortunately, though, you don't get the option that's available on the Transit Courier of a load-through hatch into the passenger area. There are two recessed storage areas on the left and the right sides of the cargo floor near the bulkhead, and an overhead light to illuminate this area too, plus another near the rear hatch. You also get a couple of bag hooks. Finally, let's consider running costs. Pausing on the way to mention the Ford Easy Fuel capless refuelling system, designed to stop you from putting diesel into a petrol model or vice versa. The base 3-cylinder 1.1 TI VCT petrol engine is a lot more efficient than the old-fashioned 4-cylinder 1.25 litre petrol unit it replaced, used in the previous generation model. But its returns still aren't particularly exemplary. You're looking at up to 55.4 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and up to 114 grams per kilometre of CO2. For the alternative Fiesta van 1.5 TDCi 85 PS diesel derivative, these readings improve to 74.3 miles to the gallon and 96 grams per kilometre. If you'd prefer to consider this sport van variant, you'll find that the EcoBoost petrol engine's more sophisticated technology brings it in above the base petrol unit, this turbo derivative managing up to 58.9 miles to the gallon and 110 grams per kilometre. For this 120 PS 1.5 TDCi diesel, the figures are 67.3 miles to the gallon and 107 grams per kilometre. The CO2 readings are of limited significance because commercial vehicle tax is fixed at £250 a year. That's a high rate for a vehicle of this size. Whichever sport van model that you go for, the fuel and CO2 figures that I've quoted are obviously going to be fractionally affected for the worse if you opt for larger 17 or 18-inch alloy wheels. For example, with this diesel version on 18 inches, the returns are 64.2 miles to the gallon and 111 grams per kilometre. Whichever body style you go for, you should bear in mind that you'd have to cover around 80,000 miles in your TDCi Fiesta LCV before the fuel economy gains would offset the diesel variant's much higher asking price over petrol power. And you might want to know that a petrol version of this model has a slightly larger fuel tank than a diesel variant, 42 litres as opposed to 40 litres. If you're wondering what Ford's done to promote running cost efficiency this time round, well, the answer is that all the engineering elements you'd expect are in place, which is just as well given the fact that this Mark 7 model weighs in 33 kilograms heavier than its predecessor. There's an auto stop start system, cutting the engine when it's not needed, stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. And there's an Eco Select button placed down near the gear lever, which adjusts the throttle and engine settings to give the best economy possible. EcoBoost and TDCi variants benefit from the addition of an active grille shutter, which sees slats in the front grille remaining closed at startup so that the power plant can more quickly warm up to its optimum operating temperature. On the move, the flaps can open or shut for optimum aerodynamic efficiency. What else? Well, we'll tell you about servicing, which on all petrol engines is required every 2 years or 18,000 miles, whichever comes first. On the diesels, it's more frequent, every year or every 10,000 miles. 2 prepaid servicing plans are available, one that covers you for 2 years and 2 services, and another that's transferable to future owners and covers 3 years and 3 services. Maintenance bookings can be done online through the My Ford portal. This is part of the Ford Blue service scheme that wraps up all of the care and maintenance of this van into one bundle that includes a free 30-point e-check of vital parts and highlights any work required with a red, amber and green traffic light warning to rank items that need attention in order of importance. There's also the Ford Service app that you can download to your phone for free. It lets you locate your nearest dealer and make a booking, plus has a couple of extra elements, allowing you to find fuel stations and including a Park Me feature that remembers where you left this Fiesta so that you won't have to hunt for it, say, in busy multi-stories. As for the warranty, well, like all Fords, this one comes with a 36-month, 60,000-mile package that includes 1 year of Europe-wide breakdown assistance. On top of that, there's an anti-corrosion guarantee for 12 years and a year's paintwork warranty. As for insurance groups, well, the base 1.1-litre petrol Fiesta van is rated at Group 23, while the base 85 PS diesel Fiesta van is rated at Group 27. For the sport van, you're looking at Group 25 for the 1-litre EcoBoost petrol model, or Group 29 for the 120 PS 1.5 TDCi diesel. Finally, let's consider the question of residual values. Now, this has never been a particular Fiesta van's strength, but experts predict that this 7th generation version will perform much better in this regard. As to the figures, they reckon that after 3 years and 60,000 miles of use, a sport van TDCi variant like this one will shed about £12,000 worth of its original value and still be worth £5,025, which is reasonably class competitive. We think it's rather clever of Ford to have stayed in the small city van segment at a time when most competitors are leaving it. If you've an urban-based business and all it actually delivers is very small items, say urgent envelopes or crucial little software parts, then you're probably looking here at the perfect LCV for your needs. Of course, you won't be buying it because it's the world's best handling van, but if you happen to be an owner-driver who enjoys life at the wheel, that's a very nice bonus. Either way, you'll like the fact that all the style that marks out the Fiesta car has been transferred over intact, as have the low running costs, strong safety provision and low emissions that are equally important in today's market. And it's all been done with a polish and self-belief that we've never seen from a Fiesta van before. Flawless then? No, of course not. We'd like to have seen a little more work on the engine front, which hasn't really changed that much, and it might help Ford with browsing buyers if its list pricing structure was closer to the actual figures that typical customers end up paying. Otherwise, there's much to like here, and the Fiesta van feels as perfectly suited to its intended market as ever, especially in this appealing sport van guise. In both derivatives, we thoroughly approve of the smarter cabin, the extra safety kit and the upgraded media equipment, particularly the clever Ford Pass Connect onboard modem for connectivity on the move. In short, this is more than ever a city van perfect for its intended remit. Imagining your company logo on the doors? Then you'll know what to do.